This is easy.
What is up, Goat World? Arts and Crofts here. Excited to kick off our coverage of Season 7 of the GOAT format War League. We've got an exciting feature match to walk you guys through later on, uh, with the help of special guest host this week, Morppadorp, a former War Leaguer himself, and also one of the lucky individuals so far this season who have gotten his invite to the GOAT format World Championship later on this year. But before we hop into the feature match, I wanted to just give a brief overview of GOAT format War League for those of you who are not as familiar with the competition. So, War League is a league and team based structure where this season we have 26 different teams, all with 6 to 8 players, split into two conferences here, who are going to be duking it out every week, fielding a roster of 5 players against another team that they're paired up against, and whichever team wins at least 3 out of those 5 matches wins the war for the week, as we call it. So now we do a single round robin in the regular season, and then the top 10 teams after the regular season will cut to the playoffs, single elimination with World Championship invites on the line for the top players of the winning team. So now in season 6, which just finished up about a month ago, the winning organization was a team called the Bones Generation, who you might be surprised to not see here in the list of teams. However, they made the interesting call to split up their roster, adding some new talent, but basically creating 2 sister teams here, the 13th Grave up in the Blue Conference, as well as Skull Servants down in the Red Conference. So no technical defending champions this season, but the organization is still alive and well, and all of the players that took home the championship last season are still competing on one of those 2 teams for the most part. For today's feature match, we are going to be catching up with our Season 6 MVP, who is a Bones Generation player on the 13th Grave this season. Player's name is Rete. They had a honestly relatively unremarkable season, going 3-5, playing mostly Chaos Turbo with a little bit of Burn squeezed in there just to keep the opponents on their toes. However, Rete did turn it up in the postseason MVP tournament, running that Chaos Turbo list and defeating, making it through the gauntlet of all of the other top competitors from Season 6 to take home the MVP title and earn himself an invite to the World Championship. So for the Week 1 matchup, 13th Grave got paired up against Fisherman, a newer org, to War League, but with several GOAT format War League veterans on the roster. And so in week 1, Rete will be playing up against Spiral, who is another War League veteran, predominantly a Chaos Turbo player, played last season on now defunct Org 400s, helped them with a very respectable 6-4 record to a playoff berth, although they lost in the wild card round. All right, and now heading over to the feature match, I'm now joined by Morppadorp, as previously mentioned. Morp, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Arts and Crofts. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am pretty good. Excited to look at some awesome GOAT format action. So, as previously mentioned, our feature match for today is going to be our Season 6 MVP, Rete, taking on another War League veteran here in Spiral. We'll be watching it from Spiral's point of view, and we're just going to hop right into the match. Like Spiral won the RPS, is going to be going first. So now sitting in Spiral's point of view, looks like he's running Chaos Turbo, kind of as expected. Rete, we know, also likes to run Chaos Turbo. That's what he ran in the Season 6 MVP tournament that he won, but also will occasionally play some Burn. So from Spiral's point of view, you kind of have to be prepared for both of those matchups. Opening hand is pretty solid here. No immediate discard fodder, and you have your normal summon for turn, so I feel like I wouldn't fire off the Graceful here. Morp, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. The one thing I would say here is that if we suspect that Rete is going to be on burn, a lot of the times the Chaos Turbo pilot is going to lead on spy. Like if you were just going in blind into this game, a lot of the times we would probably just like set spy, set Jargreet pass because you don't actually have protection for the Dekoichi, and getting it run over by a Blade Knight would obviously be pretty bad. But given the fact that we know our opponent might be playing Panda Burn, there is some consideration to maybe set the Koichi first and maybe like should they be on burn now, all of a sudden the spy is just not a card I think we ever want to set because we don't want to play into a Geometrio. Therefore, we can throw it away to Graceful Charity if need be. That's really the only consideration here. So we'll see what Spiral thinks Rete's playing, and I think a lot of this like the way that this turn one plays out is probably going to be indicative of whether or not Spiral is in the know of Rete, possibly being a Panda Burn player.
And right on cue, we see a spy set early on. Now, like I said, Rete does play burn occasionally, but is predominantly a turbo player. So maybe Spiral just kind of hedging his bets there. But yeah, as you mentioned, set spy, set jog pass. Decent opener there, of course. Rete here,
Very
follow up.
rudimentary.
Or go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was just say that's like a very rudimentary opening. It's just kind of like T-set pass. We've
Yeah,
seen this over and over again in this.
absolutely. And then spy will get knocked. Not the end of the world. And then you see Rete banishes 3 spies of their own. So you're probably pretty confident your opponent is on Chaos Turbo at this point. Panda Burn can sometimes play spies, but it's pretty rare, I feel like.
Yep, I would agree.
And then Rete will go set a monster of their own with a couple back row. No reason to fire off the jog here. Let's just get on to turn 2. And then we get hit with a Trap Dust Shoot here in the standby phase. So Rete gets to see the hand. And the Sort gets sent back, which is interesting because there's no monsters in the grave. So Morp, as a turbo player, if you get hit with Dust Shoot here and the Sort gets sent back, what's kind of your read as to what might be in Rete's hand, or the unknown cards that are set on the field?
I think it's just more so a fact that Rete is really scared of this Graceful Charity. Like, if Spiral, let's just say, goes like, uses Graceful, finds a light, and then just like dumps like Dekoichi plus like, I don't know, either a TD or a Faith, like all of a sudden the Sork is live, which is probably why the Sork got sent back. Rete is probably in a position where he can, or where he either isn't like overly scared of whatever Spiral can do, whether it be like Breaker trading with this entire board, or set the Koichi just gets immediately answered by the Knight Assailant that we see set across from on Rete's side of the field. So this is just a matter of, I think, like hedging for like the worst possible scenario of this Grace will just like immediately turn the Sorcerer on, which is why I think Rete is shooting to send it back.
Makes sense to me. Now, Spiral, luckily, pretty good hand to get hit with Dust Shoot by because you have the Jog to fill in an unknown gap and then the Graceful if you want to fire it off. I assume Spiral here is going to lead out with that Jog and then reevaluate, but we'll see.
Yep. And this Jar Greed, like you were saying earlier, the only reason you would ever activate this Jar Greed in Rete's end phase is if you like were ridiculously respecting Royal Decree. Otherwise, holding the Jar Greed until main one is going to play around Dust Shoot. It's going to ensure that whatever you draw off this Jar Greed doesn't get spun back.
Absolutely. And now with Jar of Greed drawing you into Sangan, do you want to fire off the Graceful here now, even though you don't have any discard fodder? Because there is the benefit of, getting rid of some known cards post Dust Shoot, or do you think your hand is fine enough, even with this new Sangan?
I think your hand is fine. The Breaker, let's say if it pops Mirror Force or something, like, and then also kills like the set monster, that's probably like close to a max value Breaker as you can get. If you have some Soulry that the set monster is like Knight Assailant, you can also just like summon a Sangan and like just crash into the Knight Assailant and then start Serpent, and that would also make your Graceful better. So there's no real reason to fire the Graceful off. Like, you do have plays. It doesn't really matter that Rete knows like almost the entirety of the hand. I don't think it's enough of a factor to want you to incentivize you to cast the Graceful on this attack turn cycle.
Makes sense to me. We'll see what Spiral chooses to do here. It's just going to go set Sangan. The idea, I guess, being that Rete is probably expecting set Dekoichi here, right? So you can bait a little bit.
Yep, I like this play a lot actually. And if it ends up just being like not Assailant, but ends up being like Dekoichi, like, assuming the Dekoichi runs the Sangan over, like, you do get the Search Serpent anyways, and then like you still have the Breaker to run over the Dekoichi, even though like it did plus, technically speaking. Not that you could stop that to begin with.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, to your point, Spiral probably wanting to play towards resolving this Sangan, right? Because then you can grab Serp, makes your Graceful really good. And with one knock already being used, setting Sangan is less of a risk because they're, pretty unlikely that the second knock is going to banish your Sangan. So not really too much. And yeah, as you mentioned, Knight Assailant flip, popping the Sangan, gonna search for Sinister, set up a really nice Graceful Charity next turn. Rete has some stuff of his own, jogs into a Thunder Dragon, gonna fire that one off. Nothing super worrying here for Spiral just yet. Gonna follow up with another set monster. Poke for 200. Nothing crazy.
Yep. This is
Spiral.
also kind of what I was like scared of. Like imagine Rete instead of this Night Assailant was like, let's just say it was like a Faith, like going like knock on your spy into set Faith and a pick up Nobleman and use it on the Sangin would kind of not be great here. I'll be honest with you, but that's not the timeline we live in. And then Spiral obviously just like rips knock off the top. So now that Spiral has a knock of his own, this Faith is unfortunately not really going to work out for Rete.
Totally. Yeah. Top deck Nobleman, pretty good. You can go ahead. You could consider knocking first year before the Graceful. I guess if you want to banish. I mean, spies are already gone. You already have a Dekoichi, so actually banishing your Dekoichis is probably good. Would you fire off the knock here before Graceful or after?
I think so. With the spies being gone, I think I would do it after. Sorry, I think I would do it before because drawing um basically like any flip in the scenario is probably going to be just like a net positive outcome. The reason you would use Nobleman before using Graceful is so that you don't draw like dead copies of Spy after you use the Nobleman. But as soon as the spies are gone, you can kind of just invert this rule.
Sounds good. Spiral here. Thinking about it, just going to fire off that Graceful, like you said. Draws into Night Assailant as well. No flips in the grave right now, but probably you're just going discard Assailant and Koichi and bouncing back the Koichi, I would imagine. And keep that Sinister hand for a rainy day. Gonna go for the Sinister and then I guess the Heavy Storm here. So interesting choice there. I mean, I guess you're plus oneing regardless of which path you take. But now this way, you're I guess saving a little bit of information, but you do use up Heavy Storm, which isn't the best card in the mirror. Now we're gonna knock prior to the Upstart Goblin, so uninterested in drawing Magician Faith, I guess. Both players gonna get their faiths banished. Rete may, I guess, signifying that the second faith is probably in hand, assuming it's a standard list, because none were banished. Or I was gonna fire off Upstart and draw into the second copy of Night Ascent. Interesting hand here. You probably just go for set to Koichi pass, yes, or set to Koichi, set jar pass. Nothing else really kind of jumps out to me.
I agree. Now obviously Tsukiyomi would just be like very, very, very bad. For Spiral because like the Night Sailing down, just like keep denying these flips would like obviously be very awful. Even summoning Breaker is not amazing here because Tsukiyomi will just kill the Breaker eventually. So you really just have to hope, I think, from Spiral's perspective that Tsukiyomi is not there. I don't think it's something that you can realistically ever play around with just how the hand has shaped out, unfortunately.
Yeah, makes sense to me. We'll see what Rete does have. Going to be a breaker of their own, so Spiral's going to get a nice little plus here, most likely. And then we're going to crash into the Koichi, cycle for another card. Getting some solid units here. Card destruction with double Night Assailant in hand is probably something you're pretty happy to see. Snatch, no really great targets at the moment, but solid card, of course. And we draw another copy of Dekoichi. All right, so Morp, controversial question here. I guess with the hand of double Night Assailant plus card destruction, you're going to be card destructioning at this turn, right? I would imagine so. Do you want to summon anything first? Do you want to set the Snatch Steal? How would you play this turn?
The only thing I would consider doing would be saying the Snatch Deal. Can I just take a look at Reptish Graveyard for a quick second?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah. So the only reason I would ever consider setting the Snatch Deal is if I was scared of something like BLS or Sorcerer, which in this spot, just given that Rete can go like, well, actually, I guess if you card destruction them, they can't actually make this play. But I guess like if any point like a Dark Hits like rewrite for Rete, and then like they drop like a Sorcerer BLS, you do probably want Snatch to answer it. So I don't think it's like insane to set the Snatch Deal before using this card D. That being said, I would probably not want to commit a monster before using it because these Night Assailants are going to be picking up the Koichi, picking up like a copy of themselves anyways. And in this scenario, I probably just want to sell the cards that I draw off the card D before committing my normal summon, just because like you're seeing so many more cards. The game state might change exponentially just based on like the 5 cards you draw. whatever gets set up. Like if you rip like TD plus like Sorcerer or something, like all of a sudden, uh, you might want to like commit like a Tsukiyomi on top of that in case like you want to beat Rete's Snatch Steal. Like there's so many different factors to where I think committing the normal summon here before using the card D just doesn't really make a ton of sense. The only thing I would consider holding is like Snatch Steal. Otherwise, yeah, the CD looks really good. Even though like we know that Rete has two TDs in hand, like the fact that you have Double Knight Assailant from Spiral's perspective makes this card so much better for you than it does for Rete.
And Sinister Serpent, not to mention, right? And yeah, I think your point about
Yeah.
holding the normal summon makes total sense, right? Most of the time, it's not like Breaker is insane here, right? So you're not going to be summoning Breaker. And then if you want to just summon the Dekoichi, you can just grab it back with the Knight of Sand. So might as well just see what cards you have first before committing to the Dekoichi. And so yeah, I would imagine Spiral's going to fire out this card to here. And that's what we see. Whole hand gone. See the opponent's hand. The Magician of Fate that was essentially known, and then there was a dead Chaos in hand. And then if you're Spiral, I guess we'll see what we draw first before we commit. We did not draw a normal summon, so Dekoichi is looking not too bad. I guess do you probably just go NA plus Dekoichi as your two targets?
I think so. I mean, like you do kind of want to, keep going. Like this, honestly, like sure we did see 6 cards, but this card destruction hasn't really actually looked all that great. Like we're still missing TD. We can't rip Spy because they got Nobleman, obviously, but like Tsukiyomi would be nice to clear this breaker as well. Um, like we do kind of still want to do at least like something remotely proactive, and so I think like in that case, the Koichi is probably like the best thing. You definitely don't need the second Ice Alien anymore because you are going to be picking up Serpent, and so like you will have like basically infinite discard fodder for the rest of the game, and you're not in a position where you need the Maneater bug side of Night Assailant. So yeah, I think like the pickups off of these NAs are pretty rudimentary. It's just pick up NA, pick up Deco, and then see what you draw off Upstart, and then probably just like set Deco, set stuff, pass, and obviously cast Duo too, because there's no reason not to cast it right
Yep.
now.
Makes sense. NA Deco are the choices. Probably just fire off the Duo here as well. Or we can Upstart first. I guess if you draw into shoot, you might want to be shooting before you Duo.
Yep.
Upstart into pot.
Draw that.
Yeah, that's pretty
Draw
good
that. That's
too.
pretty good.
Yeah. Now I guess if you're gonna upstart before you do it, you probably want to pop before you do it.
I would agree. Yeah.
Oh, Spiral chooses not to. I mean, it's relatively marginal at this point, I guess. And we'll see what we snipe with this Duo. It's a Sinister Serpent. Feels bad.
Unlucky. Notably, this actually makes it so that if Rete picks up Serpent, like Pot of Greed drawing Dusher Tier isn't even that bad. Like he would probably still set it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then the second discard is a Dekoichi. Fire off the pot, of course. Drawn to Book and Ring. Nothing juicy.
Okay,
Notably no Chaos Live yet. Still have we're 11 cards left in the deck and no Thunder Dragons.
yeah. No TDs. The fates we know are gone. One thing I will say is after I see this Book of Moon, I am of the opinion, or I am like just strongly thinking that Spiral only has one Dust Shoot in the deck. This is like a list that I think Ivan has been kind of tinkering and experimenting with, and I imagine that he probably passed it on to Spiral, and Spiral chose to bring it to War League this week. Um, I'm not exactly sure like what Ivan did with the list, but I think he might have like won like a PWCQ or like topped a GFC with it or something.
Yeah, it was a PWCQ. The last PWCQ was won by Ivan with a list
Yeah,
very similar, if not exactly this, because I don't think we've seen a single deviation
yeah,
from that list yet.
yeah. So that does kind of like explain like potentially why Spiral would go like Upstart into Duo into Pot like and choose that sequence in particular. It's very minor as you said, and like, but I would probably still just resolve Upstart Pot and then Duo just to see if I do rip the one up Dust Shoot. But the fact that there's only like one copy in the deck makes it such that it more than likely didn't matter, and in this case it definitely doesn't because he didn't draw Dust Shoot anyways.
Yeah, makes sense. So crazy turn here, right? We resolved card D with Double Knight Assailant, Upstart Goblin, Duo, Pot of Greed, and somehow at the end of the day, our best play is just set Dekoichi with some back row pass, right?
Like, you're not too upset about it. Like worst case scenario, like you can go like Regeki Break Pitch BLS, and that would be your light for the sorcerer in your hand. Not that I think you should do that, but I'm just saying like it is something you can consider doing if like somehow Rete just like has like some really insane hand. But I think like between like Break, Ring, Book, MST, like it should be very hard for Spiral to die like in the near future.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I guess now the consideration is what back row do you set behind this Dekoichi? Um, Rete does have Chaos Live. We haven't seen BLS yet, so you do have to be a little bit worried about something being dropped and maybe going for some potential big offensive push. There's already a lot of attack points on the board. So even though we haven't seen Heavy Storm yet, are you looking to maybe set multiple back row here just to hedge against a BLS drop?
I think so. So we know for a fact that like we do have like this like NA loop going. So break is totally fine. MST is fine to hedge for like dust shoot in case like we rip TD off the top. We don't really want to get dust shooted because we do kind of want to just immediately drop this BLF drop, immediately drop this Sork. The Book of Moon does not look very appealing on this board. The Ring, I think, similarly to break, like even if you do get Storm, you can just chain it. I'd probably set MST and then one of either the break or the ring. I'd probably lean towards setting the ring over the break because the break can be used to protect BLS or Chaos Sorcerer from Snatch Steal later in case we need to use Book of Moon on something else.
Makes sense. Cool. And we'll see what Spiral chooses to go with here. Set the deco, set MST, and set the ring. Yeah, so just like you said, seems like a pretty solid play. Hold the Raigeki break for a rainy day. And pretty solid spot. You're up a million cards. Just kind of have to navigate to a situation where you can actually play your chaos. And I think it's looking pretty good for Spiral if he can make that happen. Almost
Yep,
a
I
1 in 3 chance you top deck your Thunder Dragon.
Yep, exactly. Rete is at like 10,000, but we've also just seen that, like Chaos Turbo can just output like crazy amounts of damage like very quickly. So even though he's sitting pretty at 10,000, like a Sark and a BLS are going to change that really fast, and like you could probably still like 2 turn clock or like at worst 3 turn clock through it.
Makes sense. Yeah, so interesting choice here from Rete. The BLS is gonna, or sorry, the breaker is gonna come and attack the Dekoichi, and we're actually gonna ring the tokenless breaker. What are your thoughts on this play? Not exactly an
I
orthodox move.
really, I really like this. So the reason why Spiral is doing this is because assuming that like Rete doesn't have exactly like the second nobleman or doesn't like use like a step my favorite Geki break, he now gets to keep this resolve 1400 Dekoichi body around. It can kill the Night Assailant. It can pressure more flips. And just more importantly, like Spiral, despite being up like ridiculous amount of cards, has not really been ahead on board this entire game. And this is probably going to be step one of trying to accomplish that. Like if you just start attacking with the Koichi and maybe like even like set the assailant because you are bringing back a sorcerer, sorry, a serpent back from Spiral's point of view, like you can probably just like keep Rete off the board for a good amount of time, and then eventually like the Sork and the BLS will actually get there a lot faster than had you not done this play.
Yeah, makes sense. It also gives you a Book of Moon target. You just want to go like flip to Koichi, book it down, get another card later on, try and turbo through your deck and grab dragons. Definitely a line that's available.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Ring is gonna do a first blood here on Rete. Funnily enough, we're 11 cards left in our deck and just dealt damage to our opponent for the first time. Um,
Yep.
and then Rete is just gonna set a couple back row. We snipe one of them with the MST. It's a snatch steal, totally fine. You're actually probably pretty happy with that if you can find your Thunder Dragon and play your Chaos.
Yeah, now you can use the break a lot more liberally because you don't have to be worried about because all the fates are gone too, right? So you don't have to be worried about Snatch Steal and Sork or BLS at any point in the game anymore.
So Spiral here draws Mirror Force, not that coveted Thunder Dragon, but we can just go flip to Koichi and see what we find.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we see. And there she blows.
Notably, both players have Forgotten Serpent. Rete, I think, drew to 4 and also just like didn't pick it up. Spiral this turn also didn't pick it up. Is not going to get punished for it though because he ripped TD.
I guess
It's like
Rete could have been playing around Dust Shoot, right? Because Spiral did have double macro set, and Serpent would have been number 4. Yeah, so Rete, maybe he could have
you're right. You're
forgotten
right.
the Serpent, but at least there's a world where you don't grab it. Spiral just straight up forgetting it. Yeah. But you in a pretty commanding position. You found the one card to really make things happen here. Are you worried about any back row? Torrential is like annoying, but you have plenty of stuff to deal with anyway.
Yeah, I think like because like Rete didn't pick up the Serpent, like we can probably just assume that the backer was not Regeki Break or not a discard trap of some kind. You still have to be worried about Mirror Force, you still have to be worried about Ring, you still have to be worried about Torrential to some degree, but you can definitely drop at least the Sorcerer here. Or like drop one of the Sorcerer or the BLS here, and it probably would be like very justifiable. I wouldn't drop both. I think that's a little too foolhardy.
Yeah, notably, if you can pretty safely play into Mirror Force here as well because you have the book.
Yeah, for sure. It's just the counterpoint is always like if they torrential when you drop both, like it does look really bad. So I probably just don't drop both because I think like I'm in such a commanding position to where like even if one of these sorcerers die, or like, so I guess like you're in a position where like you can probably just like win with just Dekoichi plus sorcerer, or like Dekoichi plus BLS, and you don't need to drop the second one.
Yeah.
And just holding the second one as insurance is going
Yep.
to ensure that you didn't get blown out by like a board wipe at some point. Torrential is really like the thing that would make you not want to drop both.
Yeah. Makes sense. We'll see what Spiral does here. Yeah, definitely no need to slam everything at this point in time, probably. We're just going to go Sorkin defense, banish the Knight of Silent Poke for 14, probably. That's what we see. Playing the long
Yeah,
con.
I don't mind this. I don't mind this.
Yeah. And then back row, we're going to set that book. Why not? And set the Raigeki break since you have the Knight of Silent in hand. Mirror Force probably not going to be super necessary at this point in time.
Yep, I'm a fan.
Rete now grabs the Serpent. Still playing around Dust Shoot.
I think so. Notably, Sprout didn't use an Neural Summon that turn. I probably would have set the Assailant because I think like if Rete sets a monster, like you probably just go like flip the Assailant, Tribute Summon Thunder Dragon, start pushing 3,000. And you also just have a Serpent to constantly grab back. So like having fodder for this break is just nothing really. I just think like being able to pop a set monster without having to commit the BLS is very appreciated here, and you also just don't want to use the break for that purpose either, because like there are going to be perhaps like other things to break, and I think the longer you hold this break, like the less of a chance Rete has of really getting back into this game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Rete's going to fire off this duo, see what it snipes. It's that Mirror Force, and then you can either discard the Thunder Dragon or the Knight of Silent. You probably just discard the NA, I guess. Or I guess to your point, if you actually value using it as a normal summon later on, could keep it.
It really depends on like I think if you like intend on like picking the NA back up.
Actually, you probably just discard the Thunder Dragon to get a Light Engrave without having to like do it on your own turn.
Yeah, that's also relevant. Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Oh, we're gonna go for the NA though, so silly.
I think
Yeah,
either one is fine, really.
yeah. At this point, it kind of doesn't.
Draw cards. Yeah, I would agree.
Rete sets a monster, passes. Now you kind of tested for torrential last turn, right? Like presumably Rete might have torrential when you dropped the sword.
Possibly, yeah. It's also just very clearly like it could also just very clearly just be a situation where Rete just like is not running the card, which is like we've seen torrential been like cut from like many Chaos Turbo lists recently.
Very true, very true. You might not even need to respect it at all. You could kind of just go for game here, depending on what your read of the set monster is, right? You could go RB the back row because we know it's SERP. You can go just BLS attack twice, whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of like I said before, kind of dealer's
This is
choice.
also like kind of why like setting the nice talent there would have been so much nicer.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this is also like another reason why I think setting the nice talent would be a not nicer, because like let's say like you had set the nice talent, you flip summon it, get rid of no, you start the turn by picking up Serpent, use Raigeki Break on the last back row, then you flip summon an Assailant, should be summon Thunder Dragon, drop BLS, and just everything goes in, and like Rete just dies. Whereas here, like there are more variables in play, and like you probably can still kill them, but it's like a little bit less guaranteed because we just don't have like a clean way of dealing with both the set monster and the set back row.
we're gonna go just main phase one, Raigeki break, discard Thunder Dragon, getting Light Engrave, pop in the back row. It's a Wind Blast that Rete opts not to use, right? And now we can just kill him.
Like the Night Assailant being the extra body on board would like matter a lot here. Now I think he's just going to risk like attacking into it. From Sorrel's point of view, like if that set monster ended up being like a Tsukiyomi, just like to stymie the game shot for a turn, like you would probably look a little bit silly. I'm not sure if it was gone yet, but like Night Assailant also would kind of be bad news bears there.
Yeah, yes. Assuming Rete's on 2 Night Assailants, there was 1 left. All a moot point because Spiral just slams down that BLS, attacks over Serpent for game. We're gonna head on over to game 2 here. Rete will be going first, Turbo Mirror, so usual side in, side out. As expected, see what Rete's opening is. Gonna be set a monster with 4 back row. So we'll see if anything is activated in the standby phase. Gotta assume a little bit of Dust Shoot action probably in the mix. But we'll see. Carl here actually makes it to main phase 1 with no Dust Shoot activation. So I guess the read is that there's a Solemn Judgment set here for Rete. And And Spiral's hand is pretty clawed. We got Double Spy, Dekoichi, Knight Assailant, and a Dead Chaos Sorcerer. What are you doing here? Are we just setting Spy, setting MST, passing?
I think you set spy. You don't even have to set MST honestly, because like, so I've seen this play like from Turbo like so many times. Usually when they like set four like that, yes, like I think you could probably read that there might be a solemn judgment there, but it also is more likely that they went like set jar, set like two jars, set MST, and like just set like I don't know like a break, a ring, or something. In this case, we get to cheat a little bit because we can see the stats on Rete set monster. Here he decided to set Faith without any spells in the graveyard, so we can probably just assume that there is an MST set down there somewhere, which would make setting our own MST like not great. Now obviously from a Sprouts point of view, he doesn't know that. Like the set monster could be anything. But even then, like this MST doesn't really accomplish much. A lot of the times, the reason why you would want to set MST is to like beat stuff like Dust Shoot primarily, but also like Jar Greeds that you just snipe in the end phase. Here, I really don't think Spiral's in a position where like he cares about a Dust Shoot. Like his hand is so redundant to the point where Shoot is just not really gonna be all that backbreaking. And so like you could probably just like use this MST later on in the game where perhaps after you draw a storm should it be in the deck, or you're in a position where like some of these backups do end up getting used. You can like either protect this sorcerer from like snatch steal, you can protect the spies from snatch steal should the spy resolve. um just a lot of different applications for that just don't involve it being set here and like being traded one for one to our opponent's potential MST or break or whatever.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll see. Spiral does opt to set it. We'll see if it just gets popped by an MST in the end phase. Looks like no. So we'll see what Rete is cooking up here with this Magician of Faith potentially. We're gonna go. We're setting knock. Okay, so that screams Solemn Judgment set, and Rete is just setting the hand to play around a potential duo. So not gonna come through here on the spy, and Spiral gets stuck with a stranded spy in hand, which is never great. We're gonna go Jar of Greed, draw into a third card, set a monster, and pass. So notably, Rete not interested in going flip faith, grab knock. There is a little bit of value in smoke screening here, right? Because if you just grab the knock, Spiral is going to know that they can play around it. So now your opponent's more likely to think it's, maybe like a Serpent or a Knight Assailant or something like that. And we'll see how Spiral reacts to that info.
I would probably just be of the mindset that it is Knight Assailant. Um, Obviously, like Faith Grab Nobleman is also something that could be in the range.
Yeah, it won't be
Like,
Dekoichi.
almost certain. It could be Sangan. But Sagan probably would have flipped summon and attacked directly. Serpent seems really odd to set turn one in this position, but it also is possible.
Moving on. So Spiral top decks Pot of Greed. Good card to see there. Probably just fire it off. Go from there. We're gonna MST. Oh, I guess because you have the hunch that Rete has a solemn set, maybe you can snipe a 50-50 here. It's not like, Jar of Greed probably used if you're Rete, and everything else isn't really chainable.
I would agree. I would agree. Like, there's probably like some other like real spell, perhaps that would maybe make this like maybe I made this like set one faith like make more sense. Like if it's just picking up nobleman and you were gonna pick up the noble. Sorry, if it's just nobleman that like is a faith target and we're gonna pick up the nobleman with the faith, it doesn't really make a ton of sense to have used to have set the faith turn one. So even if you like miss on the Solomon, like you snipe some like other potential like really powerful spell or something, like this does make I think this is totally fine.
Yeah, and of course paving the way for the Pot of Greed solve. You do snipe the Solemn, so you're pretty happy with that. And now let's see that pot. See what you can do with it. Draw into Faith and Jar. Okay, so now you have some juicy targets engraved for your Magician of Faith. If you want to fire it out, you've already checked for knock, but as we talked about, we know Rete has Flip Faith, Grab Knock, and that is definitely in the range, of course. So if you're Spiral, interesting choice of what to set here. Notably, Faith is importantly a light, because you haven't found Thunder Dragon yet as well. So would you just shotgun set the Faith here, try and go Faith Grab Pot, or are you still trying to bait stuff out?
Yeah, there's a lot you can do here. Obviously, like Sprout doesn't have spies left in the deck, so like this spy is only ever going to be like a 12-20 vanilla. If you read that the set monster is like Knight Assailant, you could just like force that out first, and then that would pave the way for you to actually resolve the Koichi or resolve Faith later on in the game. You could also just like set the spy, let it get eaten. You could set the deco, which is probably not going to be something I really want to do because I think like just given the fact that Reddit chose not to flip summon whatever he set turn one, like that for a fact that he has more ways to deal with set monsters. So I lean towards either summoning the spy and attacking like the old set, or perhaps even the new set, up to you, or just setting the spy and setting the jar of greed.
Yeah,
That's probably what I do here. Not really exciting play from Spiral's point of view, but you're just kind of paving the way to eventually resolve this fate and grab this pot back.
makes sense. Yeah. Gonna go set jog, set that by try and bait something out. Yeah, can either bait out potentially the Knight Assailant if that's what's set. Could bait out, the Faith Grab Knock. Um, see what Rete does here. Top deck's Thunder Dragon, pretty good. Getting a Light Engrave, and I presume we'll see Faith. Actually, yeah, you flip to Koichi first. See what you grab. If you just draw into knock or something.
Yeah, or you just like draw a graceful, draw a pot. Like that would only
Yeah,
just
exactly.
make the fate better.
Yep. But looks like didn't draw anything super juicy with the Dekoichis. We're just gonna go Faith Grab Knock, Knock banish the final spy. And Spiral is down cards, but at least you kind of bait it out and now you know more what you're up against. Raid is gonna set a monster, poke for 17. Nothing we can do about this. And now we got another set monster to potentially worry about. We draw Duo for turn, which is maybe one turn too late since the Thunder Dragon already got fired off.
Yeah, this duo is definitely a little rough. It's definitely like not going to be a great value here. Notably, like I would probably fire this duo off should this Dekoichi ever die and Rete gets colors in the grave for be a lesser sorcerer. But until then, like this duo is just not going to be very enticing and not really going to be something you're interested in casting. You'd also just much rather pick up like the pot of greed off of this faith in Spiral's hand instead of like try to duo Rete twice, which is kind of a pipe dream and also just not guaranteed to be very good.
Makes sense. Yeah. Now, once again, same choice as last turn for Spiral. What do you want to set here? You are falling behind though, so you've seen knock, you've seen Faith grab knock. Is now the time you just set your Faith and try and kind of fight your way back into this game, hoping you can grab the pot?
Well, I need to stop you there because we have a jargon to resolve first before we ask that
Oh,
question.
very true, very true. Let's see. Let's see. I'm getting ahead of myself. Jar of Greed. What are we finding? Sinister Serpent. All right, now what are we setting?
Good question. So this position looks pretty doomed from Sprouts' point of view. Like obviously we know like the second faith is there. It's been very unfortunate for Sprout to not have seen like a nobleman or like a mind control even on like the first like 12 cards, especially after that pot of greed. Here, I'm probably just like I think you're in a position where you just have to sandbag this faith for as long as possible and try to really like bait out all of Rete's answers. Like um setting the spy already like accomplished that because like we would much rather the spy have gone and knocked than go like normal summon spy, attack the set faith, they pick up the nobleman, they just get to hold it for the rest of the game, which would be like really, really, really awkward. Um anyway, so what this probably just ends up being is like set the Koichi pass, and you're just kind of hoping to not die, and you're kind of hoping that like something resolves. And as soon as like the first flip resolves, and like there's a good chance the second one does too. Basically, we're just trying to pave the way for this faith to eventually resolve, such that we can grab the pot back, and that's like really the only thing Sprout can look forward to. Um, there's not really a ton you can do here beyond that. So I guess like there's like a really cute like summon serpent attack the faith line, but that's just like really silly and doesn't really accomplish anything. So not really a line that I'm particularly interested in. He's gonna cash his duo in though, even though we know that there are two TDs in hand. This is pretty interesting.
Yeah, maybe the idea is instead of waiting, I guess we'll see what he sets, but I could see going the complete opposite direction and like firing off duo, hope you snipe like a minecon or something, and maybe just try and force the faith through now before Rete can potentially just draw a million cards. Um,
Yeah,
pro-
that's reasonable.
yeah, you hit heavy, which in post side in the turbo mirror, not always the best thing, but something you want to do occasionally. And then
Yeah.
yeah, as expected, Thunder Dragon hits the grave. And then we're gonna go set the Dekoichi here. All right. So if the plan is just set Dekoichi, I feel like you probably hold the duo, like you were saying. Rete can just go flip faith, grab knock your Dekoichi again, hit in with all the weenies. Looking a little doomed here for Spiral.
Yeah. There's a play that I realized that, that's Rock could have also made, which was like just bluffs at the duo and like maybe like Rete doesn't just go all in here like he did, but it's really marginal and probably like just doesn't really matter anyways. Like Rete has like full board control, can still just pressure and with like weenies without overextending into mirror force or whatever. Like Even if like this board got Mirror Force, I'm pretty sure um, Rete would probably still be fine. Like he has like a lot of live draws, et cetera, et cetera.
Spiral here draws. What a sad sequence of draws here, huh? Completely dead
Yeah.
dust shoot. I mean, at this point, what you just set the Knight Assailant and try and take attack points off the board. Don't think it too much.
Yeah, and now there's like the very sad like bluff set does shoot, which is not going to I think really actually accomplish anything. Like Sprawl's sorry, Rete's always just gonna swing into this and just make you have the mirror force, I'm sure.
Yep, and then yeah, Minecon move the Assailant out of the way, punch in with everything, and that is going to be game 2 for Rete. Heading on to a game 3. Like we said, not too much. I think Spiral could have done differently that game to make it a little bit closer. But we're heading on to game 3.
He was just really on the back foot the entire time. There's not really I didn't really see him make any like egregious misplays or anything. Like I thought he played that quite well, if anything.
Yeah, sometimes your opponent just has, 3 resolutions of Nobleman of Crossout, and you are just so behind on board and life points that you can't really do much.
I
um,
was. It's also sad because like we saw Spiral open or like he had like Popless Duo at some point in the game, and like usually if you see both of those cards or like you see like 2 of the 3 Trinity pieces, you're probably in a position or like you're probably thinking to yourself like, oh, I'm in a great spot. I'm probably going to win this game, but sometimes it's just not how it works out.
yeah, Magician of Faith, good card. Yeah, so Spiral here, of course, going first. Opens that Thunder Dragon. Has had a lot of trouble drawing that so far this match, so got to be pretty happy that you find that. Couple options for your normal summon here on turn 1. Set Spy turn 1, always a great play. You could go set Sangan to maybe bait for it if you want. So are you team set Spy or are you team set Sangan?
I'm team set spy here. The reason I'm team set spy is because you have to think about like the dynamics of like what Spiral 2 looks like if you choose to set the Sangan instead. Let's say like Spiral set Sangan, um, and like Rete just like sets it to Koichi. Like all of a sudden you either have to like normal summon the spy or tribute summon the TD to actually run over the Dekoichi, which is a huge issue. Whereas had you just set the spy instead, you just have to make like neither of those plays. You can summon the Sangan and poke in for at least 1,000, possibly more if like all Rete does is like set one monster and passes, and like you don't have to worry about Mirror Force or Tarantula or anything. Um, Another consideration is if there is a Nobleman of Crossout on the top of Spiral's deck after he resolves his TD, you are going to be a lot happier that you chose to set Spy turn 1 instead of holding in hand, because it means that you get to resolve your spy, and if like Rete sets a spy back in response, you get to get the last spy out of your deck while also preventing Rete from resolving theirs, which is a huge deal compared to had you set the Sangan to bait something at first.
Yeah, that makes sense. You also notably have a pretty aggressive hand here, right? You have by turn 1, you can go tribute summon for Thunder Dragon to get a Dark Engrave pretty easily to go for BLS. You have lots of board removal stuff with the heavy and the Regeki break. So, you can just kind of go for the spy here, and there's a chance you're just going to blow the opponent away in the next couple turns if it resolves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what Spiral chooses to do. Fire with that Thunder Dragon, of course. And then we are gonna go set spy, set Raigeki break. Definitely makes sense to me. And we'll see what Rachel does. We're gonna go knock
I might
knock
not
on.
even have. Yeah, one thing I'll say is I might not even have set the RB here with like
I
the
was
4
thinking
of
that
Spiral
too.
hand,
Yeah,
where like you would want to protect like the eventual BLS from like Snatch Steal with this RB or something, but like saying the RB isn't necessarily like bad. It's just you can consider holding it as well.
yeah. There's nothing really you want to RB with the spy here because like breaker you don't care about. Unless there's like a random Kaiku, but we haven't seen that out of Rete at all. So yeah, I think holding RB is probably good. And also it gets a backer out of the way so that you can resolve this heavy storm for free later on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, yeah. So knock gets used by Rete, banishes everyone's spies. Want to know how many spies Rete banishes here? It's going to be all 3. Okay, so no spies in the hand. And then we're going to fire off that Graceful Charity. All right, pretty strong opening here for Rete. Discards a Wind Blast and a Jog. Okay, so firing it off with no discard fodder makes you think Rete maybe just had no normal summon for the turn.
Yeah, I think that's very indicative of like, oh, I had no proactive play. I want this Graceful to help me find one. Notably, you would still use the Nobleman first because like you just like Spy all of a sudden just would not be like a good proactive play. What you're really looking for here is like the Koichi, Sangan, stuff like that.
Makes sense. Rete noting that I think this is the 3rd game this match all the spies got knocked.
Yeah.
And then we're just gonna go set 5 pass, show me the Solemn Judgment. And yeah, wow, Rete firing off the Graceful to try and find a normal summon, and then not finding one. So sometimes that happens.
Yeah. I can't help but feel like, if he pitched a Jar Greed off of this Graceful, he probably has a second one. I don't think he would probably ever pass the turn without like having at least like some like a cantrip to find a proactive threat. Um so I can probably like read that, there is at least one Jar Greed set down there. It's definitely a Solemn as well.
Yeah, pretty good hand here for Spiral though, right? You heavy force out the Solemn. Notably, right, I know a lot of people don't like keeping in heavy in the Turbo Mirror, but we know that Rete was on Solemns from last game, so you're probably more inclined to keep them in game 3. And then you get to half your opponent's life points and then start beating down with the Sangan. So seems like a pretty solid game plan here.
Yep, exactly. And obviously, like you don't have to overextend from Charles' point of view. Like as soon as the Sangin like drops down and starts connecting, like you're not going to go like tribute summon TD, drop BLS the turn after. Like there's still 4 backward to probably fight through. But like this Sangin just being such like a low risk, honestly in this case very high reward threat of just like establishing a 4 turn clock should this storm get solemn is like just really 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 nice. And obviously if the storm doesn't get solemn, like
You just went on
um
the spot, yeah.
yeah, like the game is basically just over. You're up like 5 cards. Like it should be really hard to lose even with like throwing this RB away.
Yeah. Now we will see potential dust shoot here. Yeah. So dust shoot does come down, and actually your Sangan probably gets sniped here.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we see. They'll probably fire off the storm, I guess. Oh no, we're just gonna. I guess if you have no follow up play, you could hold the heavy.
Yeah, I have no issue with Sparrow just passing here.
Yeah. Not really anything to do. You have the knock in case Rete finds a monster. Finds the Thunder Dragon though, so another dead turn here for Rete. And we'll see what Spiral top decks. It's gonna be Serpent. All right, so I guess you can just go set the Serp here, and then try and set it for a Thunder Dragon play.
Yeah, there's a few things you can do. What I actually would even consider is like normal summon the Serpent. The reason I would normal summon it is because we saw how Rete played the game too, where like he's went like set Nobleman, set Solemn turn 1, right? And like obviously it's really rare, but like let's just say like Rete did have the second Nobleman set down there. We would look pretty silly if we had set the Serpent instead of normal summoning it to play around that. I'm not really worried about any threats from Rete because he also just showed that he doesn't have a normal summon, so like I'm not really like I'm not worried about taking like a ton of damage by leaving the Serpent vulnerable in attack like this.
Yeah. I guess playing for Thunder Dragon tribute probably a little bit better. The one thing that could be cute is setting Serpent to bait out a Minecon that we know Rete's playing. But and I guess it is depending on how many copies Rete plays, it's a little bit more likely he has Minecon than Knock. But to your point, like Serpent tribute for Thunder Dragon is the only thing we have going for us right now, so might as well play for that.
Exactly, and I'm just not really worried about. Okay, well, Rete could just also just dust shoot and like take
Yeah.
that option away.
Smart play from Rete, by the way, to sandbag the second dust shoot last turn because you knew Spiral didn't have a play once you got rid of the Sangan.
Exactly.
Oh, ooh, smart. Okay, we're gonna Raigeki break to keep the Serpent around and keep our play alive. Really nice play here from Spiral. I think you can once again hopefully snipe the Solemn, which which he does for the second game in a row.
All right.
There you go.
Corrected. This setting this RB turn 1 might have actually done something.
Yeah, would need a crystal ball to know that this exact sequence of events was going to happen, but hey, it ended up working out.
Yeah.
And now we dodge the dust shoot. BLS gets sent back. And we can regrab the Serpent and then still go for the same exact play we wanted to. And also notably, Solemn's gone if you just want to fire up this heavy and get the free +1, right?
Yeah, like we saw Rete play like Wing Blast, and like getting the Serpent Wing Blast, it would honestly be really bad. So I think if I was gonna commit the Serpent at all, I'd probably heavy first.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Spiral go for that. Yep. Oh, Rete had double Solemn, but once again, we still get to force out this Solemn. And when our play is Tribute for Thunder Dragon later on, it'll be really happy that our opponent's at 4K instead of 8K, so heavy still getting solid value. And then, yeah, I guess to your point, once again, is it now just normal summon Serpent attack?
I think so. I'm in the mood for it. I want to see it happen. Come on, Spiral. No!
We're setting it.
Unlucky. It's fine, though.
Yeah. And also notably at this point, because we got dust shooted, there is no Minecon bait angle.
I'm very surprised that Rete set a Faith into this.
The no knock.
We saw a dust shoot earlier, like this turn, right? So like, I think Rete knows like everything in Spiral's hand outside of this top deck MST. I'm
Yep.
just very surprised he decided to play into it, but maybe he has, grander plans. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like a little mind game there, but like we know Spiral's gonna want to go tribute summon for Thunder Dragon, right? And so they're gonna. There's no way Spiral holds the knock here. You want to start punching in for damage. Like maybe you set Faith into no knock sometimes as a mind game, but in this
Yeah, I think
scenario,
like
yeah,
yeah. I think what Rete's thinking actually, because we also know Rete's hand is just the two TDs, right? So maybe he's just in a spot where like, okay, well, I'm going to use this phase to bait out this no nobleman or to force it, and then if I draw any other flip afterwards, like the Koichi or the Knight Assailant, like I'm not like ridiculously hampered on tempo by this like known answer to my set monsters. So
that's fair.
it looks really awkward. And like usually Faith is something that you try to like spend the rest of your flips to um, debate out noblemen and mind controls for such that the faith resolves. But maybe in this case, like you just do it the opposite way around because you are very far behind, and like you do need to draw relatively hot off the top if you're Rete to ever have a remote shot of winning this game.
Yeah, that's fair. Sometimes when you're in dire straits, you got to make funky looking plays. Play to your outs, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
sounds good. Now, I expect. I mean, do you fire off the MST here? Is there anything we're worried about?
I would probably fire it off. Yeah, like if
Yeah,
Rete like somehow held like a wing blast, like the second wing blast, and
you'd rather them wind blast your Serpent than wind blast your Thunder Dragon, right?
yeah, I guess like the other thing is like you just probably wouldn't cast like the MST in, um, at that point because like you would just rather them like wing blast the TD or whatever, and you get to hold the MST. But like, uh, I'm probably firing the MST off honestly.
Yeah, Ring would be good to hit, notably, right?
Exactly.
Do it. Oh, we're just gonna go for it. Sure. You can always just MST now if you're worried about Mirror Force, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna knock the Faith. Just, I mean, I guess if it is Mirror Force, it's like kind of fine. Would be a little bit annoying tempo wise, but we are just gonna punch in for 16. All right, so Rete just doesn't really have anything. Um, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Go. I mean, I guess any usable back row there you probably use. So what's the read now? Back row's probably like MST or something, or just like a normal spell.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's either like MST or bluff. I don't really know what it could possibly be. Maybe it's Mirror Force that he's just holding because like he's not taking lethal damage.
Yeah.
Um, that also would be totally reasonable. I guess another thing that could maybe be on Spiral's mind is that he'd rather hold his MST for exactly Snatch Steal. But I think like even if you get snatched, like you just repeatedly set the Serpent over and over again, and like you're totally fine. I don't think you really care.
Rete here draws for turn. It is that snatch. Okay, cool. Luckily we have MST, so let's just use it. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what. And Rete drew nothing for turn. Probably Dead Chaos, I guess.
I think so, something like that.
Now we get to draw another knock for turn. Grab that Serpent. I guess you just summon Serpent, attack for 19. Pretty good.
Yeah, you can also just set it here. Like the clock is still a 2-turn clock regardless. Serpent just prevents you from like getting blown out by like something absolutely ridiculous. And like again, we do actually need to. Oh, actually, never mind. I was gonna say that we did need to commit the second TD for lethal, but I totally just didn't realize how math worked, and you totally don't.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and like you said, Spiral setting up for lethal next turn. Punching for 16. Set Serpent now. Even if Rete has like a Wind Blast or something, you still have lethal.
Yeah, like you're just presenting like two different lethal threats, which I think is totally correct to do in this spot.
And Rete sees his draw for turn and makes a cheeky draw offer. Love it. So that's GG's.
You probably just misclicked the emit defeat button is probably what I think actually happened, but it's funny how it worked out.
Yeah, and as expected, hand is the 2 Thunder Dragons and then 2 Dead
Oh, that's
Chaos.
atrocious. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with the Spy's knock, just hard to find those darks. And there you have it. Spiral taking it down 2 games to 1. Season 6 MVP falls in week 1. Not the start you want if you are the 13th Grave, of course, but solid dub here for Spiral and the Fisherman Org in their first ever War League season. Morp, thank you so much for joining me today. Any last thoughts before we sign off?
Chaos Turbo on top, baby.
No matter what happened, there you go. Sweet, yeah, love it. Love a good turbo mirror though. And yeah, once again, thank you for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Arts and Crops. I appreciate it.